I have put off making this for a long time because I really don't know what good it's going to do, but my absolutely by far most controversial video, probably my most watched video, has to do with these right here, right there. If you look carefully, you'll see what I did, quote unquote, wrong according to the so-called code experts. What am I talking about? Well, first of all, I used deck screws. Okay? Instead of buying the special code-approved screws that cost 3 times as much, I used deck screws. Now, it's only into an 1.5-inch piece of wood, so I used 2-inch deck screws. So they go all the way in and through that piece of wood. And then everybody said that one down here on the bottom, I drilled a hole and I put it up into the bottom of that. And they said, that ain't doing anything. Maybe on some roofs, it might not. But see, all you people who just say, it's the code, it's the code, it's the code, and don't really know a whole lot about what you're talking about, aren't looking at the big picture. They're not looking at what's really going on here. They just know it's not code, and therefore, oh, that's going to fall down because it ain't up to code. Okay, first of all, I live in rural Arkansas. Do you see any neighbors? See any code enforcement? Nope, me neither. Second of all, this roof is not holding up anything. This roof, let's just step back and take a look. "16-inch centers, 2x6s, over a total length of 10 foot. Let's take a look at what this roof actually is. Right there. You're looking at it. It's a 10-foot roof over a little patio downstairs. It's got tin on it. We might get 4 or 5 inches of snow, maybe even 6 or 7 inches of snow. Good wet snow. Might add up to a few 100 pounds. I get my fat butt up there and put screws in it. It doesn't creak, groan, it doesn't budge. Now you might wonder why my last video I was talking about that screw going up into the bottom. Well, considering the way this is built and the fact that that's north, so in the wintertime when there's no leaves to slow the wind down, the strongest wind we get comes from that direction. What I was worried about was that it might lift up on this roof, which would pull out away from the wall. And considering the way these joist hangers are made, the only thing they've got to keep them from doing that are them little angled screws that go in this way, and they catch a teeny tiny little 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch corner of that 2x6 when you do that. That's it. You get a whole 3/8 of an inch, maybe even a 1/2 inch of the corner of the wood, which would, if there was any pull that direction, would just split right out. But that one in the bottom that I got going straight up, and it's a 2-inch screw, it's at least 1.5 inches from the wall up into solid wood. It's going to help prevent it from going that way. And that's what my whole point was. And yeah, it's just a deck screw. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 2-inch deck screws holding it up to the wall. And then there's 4 2-inch deck screws screwing it in at angles, and then 1 2-inch deck screw going up that way. So there's a total of 9 screws on each joist, every 16 inches for this little bitty roof. This little bitty roof. Code or no code, this roof is overbuilt. More than strong enough. 5 guys my size could get up there and dance. This roof ain't going anywhere. I mean, if you really want to complain about this roof, I'll tell you the one and only fault on this roof. And it ain't got nothing to do with what kind of screws I used up there, because that means nothing. It's these right here. These big cedar posts. Yeah, they might weigh about 100 pounds each, but they are just literally resting on the ground gravity. There's something underneath there to hold them up off the ground so that they're not sitting right in the water, but I need to clean around it, obviously. There's a better view on this one. You can see how it's not actually touching the ground. But you'll also notice there's nothing actually holding that pole to the floor or to the ground. And that's what worries me, is that one of these days a big old wind's going to come and just flip this up, which that screw underneath there will help prevent, by the way, because it's going to help keep it from pulling away from the wall, which would allow it to flip up and slam up against the building up there. I do have one piece of all thread rod. I plan to get another. I'm going to drill a hole through the bottom of this about a foot up, and then put the all thread rod 2 feet down into the ground and pour some saccharine in there. That will prevent what I'm worried about. But until I get around to doing that, that screw that all these people who are self-professed experts in building said means nothing, does nothing, is actually preventing this roof from lifting up by holding on at the bottom. Because those 2 screws going in at an angle, toe-nailing, aren't holding very much. They're just not holding very much. It's the problem I have with joist hangers, why they didn't bring them screw holes back another ½ an inch so that they're actually biting into the wood when they go in there. Or some other way, like I did with the drill, made that hole there to keep them from being able to pull out this way. I realize that not many things have that problem. Most don't have to concern themselves with this way of a pull, but every once in a while, that's something you need to concern yourself about. And in this roof, with those not tied down, if the wind gets under here and lifts, that screw on the bottom is going to help prevent it from lifting, because that's going to pull this way. So I hope that helps everybody to understand a little better why I did what I did. And if it was a bigger roof, or if it had to carry more, yeah, I'd worry about using heavier screws. But I think 4 deck screws, that'll hold quite a bit of weight. If I was doing this underneath of a deck, nobody would have a problem with it, because they're deck screws and I'm working on a deck. But since it's a roof, it's different. We have a code. We have a code. I don't care about your code. I'm into reality. And in reality, I did more than good enough. Like I said, this roof is overbuilt. I've seen a lot of roofs in this area, 2-foot centers, 2x4s, 10 with no decking underneath it. Compared to that, this is one solid roof. So please, I know you're still self-proclaimed experts are going to get on here and ride me about this. Well, get down in the comments and tell me what you think. You think this, or you think that? And in the meantime, give me this either way. Because if I'm right, you agree with me, give me a thumbs up. If I'm wrong, at least I had the guts to argue with you. Give me a thumbs up for guts and bravado. Subscribe if you haven't. Check down in the description for a shopping link. And we'll see you next time on Spring Holler Farm.